The aftermath of after Mohács, 1526, begins in a silent, plundered palace. Dark autumn light exposes empty chests where a kingdom's wealth once rested. This collapse will permanently fracture the realm, forcing families into a brutal double taxation system, paying tribute to both an Ottoman governor and a Habsburg captain. Yet the true breakdown unfolds through a geopolitical deception. An empire will steal the capital using a quiet sightseeing trick, leaving an ancient civilization to dismantle itself. The grand trap is set. The sudden erasure of the state apparatus leaves the medieval Kingdom of Hungary headless. The king is dead. With him go the archbishop, the chancellor, and the presiding judges. The administrative nervous system of a state erased in an afternoon. Literate directors flee toward northern highlands as the royal chancery vanishes. This catastrophe unleashes a brutal mathematical reality. The shattered kingdom now has no king, no army, and 3 separate men claiming the territory. A single day destroyed centuries of governance. The immediate landscape shifts into a terrifying silence as the autumn frost sets in. Fields lie untended, and leaderless communities wonder if their realm still exists. Amidst this chaos, Mary has already ordered the treasury packed. She is not waiting for the Ottoman vanguard. A heavy barge, loaded with court gold, navigates the dark Danube under her command. She believes the court can be smoothly reconstituted at Pozsony. She has not yet measured the size of what is gone. She reaches Pozsony with the treasury intact. The institution that gave it meaning stays behind. The plundered Renaissance palace of Matthias Corvinus stands as a hollow monument. Ottoman forces ransack the legendary library, loading manuscripts onto vessels alongside bronze statues. Across the river, Ferdinand of Habsburg claims the crown via marriage treaties, viewing Hungary as a human shield for Vienna. Simultaneously, John Zápolya assembles 20,000 men to claim domestic sovereignty. Mary deploys her dynastic connections to manage Ferdinand's claim, proving she understood the catastrophe before the army did. These incompatible ambitions ensure an immediate civil war. Zápolya expects his domestic coronation to secure absolute authority. Instead, Ferdinand launches an offensive, driving the native king into bitter Polish exile. Facing political extinction, Zápolya seals a fateful alliance, ceding sovereignty to Sultan Suleiman for military restoration. This vassalage pact locks the fate of 3 million Hungarians into a calculation none of them control. Ferdinand believes he can buy the Ottomans out, Zápolya thinks patronage is temporary, and Suleiman expects easy administration. All 3 are wrong, and ordinary Hungarians will pay. The borderlands are about to burn. The dual coronation plunges the population into a crisis of competing sovereignty. Citizens live under 2 kings who demand identical taxes while issuing contradictory decrees. Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha capitalizes on this confusion, leading a military sweep through south-central counties to enforce submission. Ottoman cavalrymen gallop past deserted marketplaces, leaving ash and ruin. Communities must choose immediate obedience to a foreign sword or allegiance to an exiled crown. This administrative friction effectively destroys the last illusions of domestic peace. The stone walls of the Franciscan church at Bach become a tomb for desperate defenders. Armed with crossbows and arquebuses, locals offer resistance until Ottoman siege cannons dismantle the structure. A stone buttress collapses under artillery fire, filling the air with billowing plaster dust. The defenders are buried alive or dragged into slavery as the town reduces to smoking ruins. This destruction marks the hardening geographic partition of the basin. The old unified world is mathematically unrecoverable. What replaces it will take generations to survive. 3 distinct administrative zones emerge from the bleeding remnants of the kingdom. The central plain becomes a directly annexed imperial province, while the northwestern arc forms a defensive bastion under Habsburg control. To the east, the Principality of Transylvania develops as a semi-autonomous client principality. A Saxon merchant inspects a ledger inside a fortified Transylvanian town, capitalizing on trade routes protected by the Sultan. These parallel realities operate side by side, forcing social groups to reinvent their existence. The political fracturing of Central Europe is now institutionalized. The systematic depopulation of the Great Hungarian Plain transforms a paradise into a desolate frontier. Thousands of small settlements vanish as peasants flee relentless slave raids. Blackened remains of mud brick walls stretch along an empty horizon where wild thistles choke abandoned plows. Mary's belief that the old court could be restored collapses under the weight of this total displacement. Exiled nobles realize their ancestral lands are permanently registered under foreign names. The country is bleeding out from its center. The year 1541 marks the absolute point of no return for the fractured basin. The enduring legacy of after Mohács 1526 hardens into permanent subjugation as the Central Plains pass into direct imperial administration. Facing this reality, an Ottoman official dips a reed pen into an inkpot, cataloguing newly conquered territory. Despite the ruin of everything she preserved, Mary accepts the regency of the Netherlands and carries Hungary's claim westward. The geometric trap designed to capture the capital is finally deployed. The masterstroke occurs without a single blow. The collapse of the church's hierarchy creates an unexpected spiritual revolution across the plains, with 75% of medieval parishes disappearing. Lutheran and Calvinist teachings spread through frontier garrisons. A quiet interior of a stark Gothic church, its walls bare of traditional ornament, illustrates this transition. German mercenaries and Hungarian soldiers openly embrace evangelical doctrines because old heresy laws are totally unenforceable. The pragmatic religious indifference of the Ottoman administration provides a sanctuary for Protestant ideas. Chaos inadvertently breeds spiritual freedom. Dispossessed magnates expect the Habsburg court to fund a massive military reconquest of lost estates. Instead, they find themselves in bitter northern exile, dependent on meager royal stipends. Armed noble raiders cross misty border rivers on horseback, executing incursions to extract feudal dues from villages under imperial control. This brutal double taxation system drains the remaining population. Peasants adopt alternate names to confuse collectors, exploiting the gap between tax rolls as a desperate act of survival. Complete financial ruin is the only constant. Alvink Castle stands as a fortified monument to dangerous diplomatic pragmatism. Here, Cardinal George Martinuzzi attempts to play rival empires against each other to achieve peaceful reunification. A high-contrast interior, lit by a single candle flame reflecting off a steel breastplate, captures the tension of his secret dealings. Martinuzzi ceding Transylvania to Ferdinand for military backing demonstrates a fierce, desperate defiance. He operates with absolute confidence, unaware that his secret communications have already sealed his tragic fate. The assassination of Cardinal Martinuzzi destroys the final illusions of peaceful reunification. Mercenaries stand over an oak desk stained with blood, executing their horrific order. This violence mirrors the absolute ruthlessness of the era, exposing the true mechanism of imperial conquest. Years earlier, Sultan Suleiman secured Buda by sending soldiers disguised as sightseeing tourists to disarm guards and plant the Ottoman flag. The competing rulers realize none will yield, shattering the fatal assumptions held since the collapse. The geographic partition is now absolute. A rich literature of theological lamentation emerges to process the collective trauma. Preachers reject simple military explanations, interpreting defeat as divine wrath against a sinful ruling class. Heavy wooden wheels sink axle-deep into dark autumn mud, marking the dispersal of a civilization on the move. Humanist Chancellor István Brodaric publishes his account, depicting the fallen army as martyrs abandoned by Western monarchs. The name of the battlefield begins its dark evolution into a metaphor for national ruin. A permanent psychological scar is forming. The economic dismemberment of the kingdom permanently alters traditional trade networks. Northern mining towns suffer grain shortages, forced to redirect mineral wealth toward constructing defensive walls. On the Great Plain, a wild pastoral economy rises from the ashes. Armed cattle drovers known as the Hajdú Guide, thousands of grey cattle across militarized border rivers under constant threat. These runaway peasants and minor nobles form a new militarized social class that will challenge both imperial masters. The lines of survival are being redrawn. Opportunistic magnates like Péter Perényi expect custody of the Holy Crown to guarantee personal security. Instead, they must continuously swap allegiances between rival kings to preserve their properties. This prolonged instability solidifies into a fixture of national consciousness, captured by the proverb that more was lost at Mohács. A corroded broadsword lies buried in grey river silt, the current pulling thin ribbons of rust downstream, 5 centuries of loss settling into the riverbed. The proverb becomes a coping mechanism for a population defined by survival. 5 centuries of historical trauma rest beneath the slow current. So why does a battle that lasted an afternoon leave a wound that takes 4 centuries to close? Not because of the land lost. Hungary had survived invasions before, because of what the partition does to the idea of Hungary itself. A professional surveyor opens a leather-bound census book, recording the permanent disappearance of hundreds of ethnic Hungarian villages. This systematic depopulation forces subsequent rulers to implement massive resettlement programs to reclaim the wilderness. This influx of populations transforms the Carpathian Basin into a complex, multi-ethnic mosaic. The modern borders of Europe are born from these empty spaces. And what does a civilization do when the structural division it fought to prevent becomes the foundation of its survival? The answer does not come from a throne room. It comes from a village that simply refused to disappear. The stark white walls of a Transylvanian church symbolize a society that legally codified multi-confessionalism while Western Europe burned. This unique compromise safeguards traditional institutions from total absorption, turning a fractured borderland into a rare bastion of cultural preservation. The lines carved by conquest become the foundation of modern Central Europe, and the full cost arrives with the Great Turkish War. The year 1683 will eventually answer the legacy of 1526, but the human cost remains unmeasurable. The transformation of after Mohács 1526 from a tactical defeat into a societal extinction event represents the victory of administrative reality over force. A flickering candle inside a quiet library illuminates a single page where the old name of a vanished village has been replaced by a foreign district number. The human story of war is not written in battle, but in the slow, relentless erasure of the world that existed before. The next chapter will be written in the fires of the Great Turkish War. If this deep dive into the aftermath of 1526 reshaped your understanding of history, subscribe to History Weaver. To see the tactical decisions that led to this collapse, watch our documentary on the Battle of Mohács right here. Join our community and help us revive the narratives of the past, one story at a time.